Chapter 81, Collecting Mission Objectives. The 7 domain-level students thought they had given Li Qi enough attention. They had even assigned a pair of domain-level fighters with exceptional teamwork to take him out before the battle began. But it still wasn't enough. The 2 assigned students were crushed. If the intel I received is correct, this planetary-level domain genius hasn't been in the stellar cultivation camp long. The student controlling the Earth domain admitted sincerely after the fight. To cultivate to this level so quickly, his talent must far surpass any planetary-level domain genius I know. I'm completely convinced, the Earth domain student continued. There's no shame in losing to a genius like him. The other 6 exchanged knowing looks and nodded. Because they came from 2 different stellar cultivation camps, each had already shown their strength prior to forming the 7, so they had a clear idea of one another's capabilities. Even together, that pair should have been very hard for the other 5 to beat quickly, yet Li Qi had done what they could not. "Let's go," one of them transmitted. "Those 5 have already gotten 2 maps. They won't be taking any more maps tomorrow. The maps for the next 3 days will be ours." With that, the 7 left. Ian flew over to Li Qi and said, "This time, you turned the tide for us. If the battle had become a stalemate, it would have been very bad for our side." His tone was full of mixed emotions. Ian had been the one to push for Li Qi to be admitted to Chaoguang Academy. In only a few years, Li Qi's strength had changed dramatically. Judging by today's display, Li Qi was not far behind Ian, and with the rate he was improving, it would only be a short time before he surpassed him. Li Qi smiled. "You helped us get the maps today. I should be the one thanking you." He knew that his group of 5, having obtained maps 2 days in a row, had drawn serious hostility, even from the San-Si Stellar Cultivation Camp. That's why he had intended to quickly finish his fight and support Ian and the others, though the opponent's timely surrender had prevented that. "Amazing. I didn't expect you to crush 2 opponents at once." Rolando flew up and transmitted. "Did you hide your strength when we fought in the virtual universe before? This domain intensity doesn't look like domain triple." Li Qi only answered, "I did hold back a part of it." Rolando clicked his tongue and smiled, letting his own guesses stand. The students around the battlefield, seeing Li Qi's group win, realized there was no longer an opportunity to fish in troubled waters and dispersed. In this map scramble, they had witnessed 13 domain-level fights and had seen Li Qi utterly defeat a pair of domain-level opponents. Many now considered them the rise of a true genius. KD Niya and Akemu were also impressed. They admired Li Qi's performance and would jump at any chance to cooperate in the future. Time passed, and when updates arrived from the Stellar Cultivation Camp, the map finally unlocked. Most students had already left, but Ian and 2 others waited for the unlocking before bidding farewell and departing. After they left, Li Qi shared the map with Rolando, then settled down on a mountain peak to plot his collection route. There was no rush. The Ian group was significantly ahead in the collection progress and hard to catch. They couldn't reach the top 3 in the time competition now, but they were sure to finish in the top 10. A bit of delay wouldn't matter. Rolando watched him and asked, "Who are you waiting for?" Li Qi said, "The students whose map I took." "You want to share the extra map with them?" Rolando asked. "Yes," Li Qi replied. "I took their map. This extra one can be compensation." Rolando grinned. "You're principled. A stand-up guy." Li Qi smiled, about to answer, when 2 streaks of light cut through the sky toward them. The arrivals were the very 2 whose map he'd taken. The lead student landed and said respectfully, "Your Excellency Li Qi, we have come." "Oh?" Li Qi asked. "You know my name?" "We asked some students from the San-Si camp just to thank you," the other student said. Li Qi waved a hand. "No thanks necessary. I took your map. Consider this extra one compensation." "We couldn't have kept it anyway," the lead student admitted, shaking his head. "We watched you fight those 7 domain-level students. That level of battle was beyond our ability to interfere." That was the difference in strength. Li Qi could crush opponents who would otherwise crush them. With their current level, they had no chance of holding on to a map in the opening days when domain-level cultivators scrambled for them. Receiving a map as compensation left them grateful, so they thanked Li Qi again. "All right, Since you're here, I'll share it, Li Qi said, and with a few movements of his light screen, he shared the map with the lead student. They bowed and thanked him, then left. As the two flew away, Li Qi noticed Rolando watching them thoughtfully. "What's on your mind?" he asked. Rolando replied, "I was thinking, if I hadn't comprehended the domain, I might be like them, finding it very difficult to get a map in these first days." Li Qi was briefly taken aback, then smiled wryly. "That's how the rules of this trial work. The strong get maps faster. Let's go collect our mission targets," Rolando said, falling into step behind him. They followed the route Li Qi had planned. 3 days later, after finishing the same mission targets together, Li Qi and Rolando split up to collect different objectives. Flying over a wide canyon forest, Li Qi murmured, "According to the map, the last 2 mission targets are in this forest." He descended into the trees and let his mind power sweep the surroundings, searching for the targets. Step by step, he moved deeper, and before long, he crossed into the forbidden zone of the forest. Chapter 82. See investment again. This place feels different from the forest earlier. Li Qi flew between the trees, his mind power sweeping the surroundings. The forest was unusually quiet. After another 10 seconds, he halted. His mind power had locked onto an abnormal plant ahead. It stood nearly 10 meters tall, bright red, and vaguely like a cabbage. Several long leaves wrapped around a central stem, but the leaf edges were serrated like teeth. Strange plants weren't unheard of on this trial planet, but this one moved. The leaves twitched as if alive. Li Qi edged closer, and with a thought, the heavy defense disc reconfigured into a spinning circular blade. He sent it slicing toward the plant. The outermost leaf lashed out with surprising speed and force, striking the disc. The blow sent the circular blade careening through the air. Bright red sap sprayed as the disc cut a long gash down the leaf, blood-like fluid running from the wound. The plant convulsed, all its leaves flailed, shredding nearby trees into splinters. Its center was a thick stem with 7 leaves over 10 meters long each. The cabbage-like shape was simply the leaves wrapped tightly around the stem. "What is this?" Li Qi frowned. He had never seen a plant that behaved like an animal. Suddenly he thought, could it be a plant life form? He activated his communicator and scanned the specimen. A moment later, the device replied, "Plant life form, thorn-tooth grass." Outside the trial planet, aboard a D-class ship, a cosmic-level instructor of universe rank gazed at the same light screen. "Thorn-tooth grass," he muttered, "one of the more common plant life forms. A seedling can fetch hundreds of millions of lava coins." He shook his head. "Too bad this one reached astral rank in the wild. Its growth's poor, value drops fast. 10 billion lava coins would be generous." Plant life forms valued growth. Every advance, especially a realm breakthrough, mattered. If rare treasures were fed during a breakthrough, the plant would gain significant advantages: the number or size of leaves, sturdiness, and so on. A thorn-tooth grass that had been cultivated when it broke from apprentice to planetary would be far superior. This wild specimen only had 7 leaves at the 3rd stage of astral rank, weak growth. Seeds were cheap, seedlings expensive, because cultivating a seed into a living seedling was difficult. With careful cultivation, however, plant life forms could reach universe rank, and once they acknowledged a master, they were fiercely loyal. The instructor smiled. 10 billion isn't much to me, he thought. I can afford to do a favor. Back in the forest, Li Qi read the communicator's identification and felt a thrill. If he could subdue a thorn-tooth grass, it would be a big help. Then uncertainty crept in. I don't know how to subdue it, and I don't know if the stellar cultivation camp allows subduing. After all, it's not something you exchange for points. A line of text popped up on his wrist screen. Li Qi Royce, the plant life form before you is a thorn-tooth grass, 3rd stage of astral rank. To subdue it, suppress its leaves first, then irrigate the core of the main stem with fresh blood. Li Qi's eyes widened. Who are you? Why are you telling me this? He asked aloud. Another line appeared. You should be able to guess who I am. He spoke the name of the instructor leading the mission. Instructor Maldo. Yes, I am Maldo. Thank you, Instructor Maldo. I'll try to subdue it. Maldo replied, I don't recommend you do that. Li Qi blinked. Confusion and irritation flared. Why explain the method and then advise against it? He waited for the rest. Text scrolled across the screen. You're probably wondering why I tell you how, but then say don't. If this were a cloud-caressing vine, even if growth were poor, I'd recommend subduing it. But this is thorn-tooth grass, and a poorly grown one at that. The screen continued. Thorn-tooth grass is common, but has significant drawbacks. Once planted, it's hard to move, it cannot shrink, and so forth. Because of those traits, even if you subdue it, you won't be able to transport it without specialized equipment and personnel. Li Qi cursed quietly. He'd hoped for a cloud-caressing vine, the plant Luo Feng cultivated in the original tale, but fate had given him thorn-tooth grass. He waited, expecting Maldo to continue. My suggestion, the text went on, is to report it to the Stellar Cultivation Camp instead of subduing it. You'll receive point rewards, which can be exchanged for useful resources. Exchanging a nearly useless plant life form for a large number of points is the wiser move. Li Qi pondered that and then asked aloud, Instructor Maldo, if reporting gets rewards, why don't you report it yourself? Why give me the instructions and tell me to report it? There was a pause as if Maldo was thinking. Then two characters appeared. Investment. More words followed. Because I'm optimistic about your talent, you're likely to become a high-level official of the Lava Empire someday. Investing in you benefits me and my family at no cost. Investment again. The phrase reminded Li Qi of Nan Ying, the domain lord from the Sand Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp. Chapter 83. Guess that the wound heals quickly. Nan Ying, a territory lord rank mentor in the wood domain of the Sand Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp, had many years of experience. Li Qi assumed Nan Ying's favorable opinion of him was just a normal, cautious assessment. What surprised him was that another mentor, Mador, someone he had never even met, suddenly wanted to invest in him. Mador claimed to have seen his talent and believed Li Qi had a strong chance of rising to high office in the Lava Empire. Li Qi couldn't help wondering whether it had anything to do with his home planet being a cultivation world, perhaps directly connected to the Lava Empire. He didn't dawdle. Li Qi quickly sent a report through his communicator about the thorn-tooth grass. The Stellar Cultivation Camp replied soon after, Don't worry about the thorn-tooth grass. Continue your trial mission. Specialists would handle the plant, and any reward would be issued after the trial mission ended. Li Qi immediately started calculating in his head how many points the report might earn. He guessed it wouldn't be worth less than a third-tier Mind Power Original Force weapon. Leaving the thorn-tooth grass area, he resumed his search for the two remaining basic mission objectives. Half a day later, he had collected them both. When he completed the basic mission, his name popped up in third on the timed race leaderboard. KD Ya and Ian held the top two spots, finishing nearly a day ahead. Li Qi blinked. He had expected to stay in the top 10 at best. He didn't expect to land third and push Akemu down. At the other end of the trial planet, Akemu finally finished his last objective, an ore that took ages to mine. He checked the rankings and found himself in fourth. Frustrated, he saw Li Qi's completion time was only a few minutes faster. He messaged his teammates about it. Ian replied that fourth was normal given the delay collecting the ore, and told him to rendezvous so they could finish more additional objectives and make up the difference. Akemu accepted and flew to meet them. Li Qi, having completed the basic mission, contacted Rolando and learned the latter still lacked one objective. He then checked his own additional objectives and saw one listed right where he was, a dream flower in the forest. He memorized its description and began searching. After nearly half a day, he found it. At about the same time, he received word that Rolando had wrapped up the basic mission and ranked fifth. The dream flower stood in a tree hollow a dozen meters away. It was entirely black, over a meter tall, with a straight stem and a metallic sheen. Li Qi sped to the hollow. His arrival kicked up a gust, but the flower remained perfectly still. No leaf or petal trembled. He covered himself with his first-tier force armor and moved in to collect a petal. The dream flower had 4 petals. He only needed 1. To his surprise, when he pinched a petal and tried to pluck it, it wouldn't budge. He was astral rank in physical strength. He could easily lift a vehicle, but the petal held firm. Its surface felt like cold metal. On impulse, he tapped the petal's edge and instantly gasped. The edge cut him. Even with his first-tier force armor engaged, the petal sliced his finger. He pulled back the gauntlet over his palm to inspect the wound and froze. The cut was healing visibly right before his eyes. Only a faint smear of blood remained at the original wound. Otherwise, the skin was knitting closed so quickly it almost looked unreal. He scanned the Dreamflower's entry on his communicator. The description only said the plant was as strong as B-grade metal, and its leaves and petal edges were as sharp as C-grade metal. Nothing about healing properties. Li Qi frowned. It didn't make sense. It wasn't likely a domain effect. Many people had comprehended the wood domain, and nobody reported wounds healing this quickly. Then another thought came to him. Could this be linked to his own body? When his genetic primal energy had broken through to planetary level, and he'd awakened a special ability, there had been a major anomaly at the United Cultivation Camp on Kuka Star. He'd once suspected he'd caused it. After that breakthrough, the only obvious sign of anything unusual in him was exceptionally fast energy recovery, so he'd assumed the awakened ability was simply rapid energy regeneration. But now, watching his finger heal before his eyes, Li Qi felt that the special ability might be more complicated than he'd first thought. Chapter 84: Strong Survivability and End. If I remember correctly, this is the first time I've been injured since I awakened my special ability. Li Qi thought it over carefully. It really was the first time he'd been hurt since his awakening. My first injury, he mused. Maybe rapid wound healing is part of my special ability. If I want to prove it, he looked at his finger. Then I'll have to hurt myself again. A single blade slid out from the blood-red blood blade cone and hovered before him. The sharp edge sliced his finger, tearing skin and flesh. Only a trickle of blood escaped. The blade slipped back into the cone. Under his eyes, the wound stopped bleeding and visibly closed, healing quickly until there was no trace left at all. No scar. Li Qi's mind confirmed what he suspected. This was indeed part of his awakened ability. Normally, using genetic primal energy would trigger a special ability. Mine seems to heal rapidly, even without spending genetic primal energy. What if I actually used some? How far could this speed go? He decided to test it again, this time on his arm. His force armor slid back to his elbow, and a blood-red blade sliced a long, deep gash along his forearm. Blood flowed freely. Let's see where the limit is. Li Qi activated his genetic primal energy. A faint green light shimmered across his skin, as if full of vitality. The bleeding halted almost instantly. Though the cut was long and deep, it healed inward out and even faster than the finger wound. Li Qi's eyes widened. The arm wound had been more than 10 times the length of the finger cut, yet it recovered even faster. The speed was terrifying. With this level of recovery, any severe injury could be survived as long as he could use his genetic primal energy. Too strong. This special ability is ridiculously strong. He reflected inwardly. I don't yet know the full nature of my awakened ability, but with extremely fast energy regeneration and extremely powerful bodily healing, my survivability is terrifyingly high. He could accelerate his body's healing by spending genetic primal energy, and his energy recovered extremely quickly as well. With both traits, his survival potential ranked near the top among those at his level. If he eventually rose to Domain Lord or even World Lord rank, pairing that physical resilience with the body of a Domain or World Lord would be like carrying dozens of weakened life fruits. In the original tales, life fruits were prized because a World Lord who hadn't died could consume one to instantly restore all health and energy. Li Qi's ability wasn't instant or as complete, but it was affordable and continuous, a practical, long-term edge. Just then, his wrist communicator buzzed. Rolando was asking whether he'd found the Dreamflower. Rolando had already arrived in the forest. Li Qi looked down at the Dreamflower and the small bloodstains and replied, I found the Dreamflower. Coordinates are. He tidied the area, wiping most of the blood away, but leaving a little so he could demonstrate how sharp the petals were. Rolando arrived at the hollow tree and, seeing the Dreamflower intact, asked, You haven't harvested the petals yet? Li Qi pointed to the remaining bloodstains. I found this Dreamflower a short while ago. I was injured collecting it. The petals cut me. Injured? Rolando looked surprised. Didn't you have force armor on? I did, but I still got hurt, Li Qi said helplessly. Read the Dreamflower's description. You'll understand. Rolando opened his communicator and scanned the plant's details. He frowned, then looked surprised. The plant's core is as strong as B-grade metal, and the petal and leaf edges are as sharp as C-grade metal. Even Rolando, from a powerful family, was taken aback. The dream flower was extremely rare and would be worth a lot. "Let me try," he said. More than 20 blades sprang from the cloud-soaring sword on his back and merged into a Po Xiao sword. With a flash, it struck the base of a petal. The sound of metal on metal echoed through the hollow. The dreamflower's stem bent under the force, but no petal fell. Another strike, and finally the petal was severed. The special first-order mind energy weapon provided by the Stellar Cultivation Camp was already close in material quality to a second-order telekinesis weapon, yet cutting a petal still took serious effort. Rolando used his mind power to retrieve the fallen petal. "Its toughness is probably no worse than B4 grade metal," he said, impressed. A blood-red blade struck next, and again metal rang against metal. This time the petals slowly fell. Li Qi caught it and laughed. "B4 grade metal is no match for my blood blade cone." Rolando watched enviously as the blood blade cone returned to Li Qi. "Once I have enough points, I'll trade for a second-order telekinesis weapon too," he said. As a scion of a large family, Rolando technically already had access to a second-order weapon outside, but since arriving at the Stellar Cultivation Camp, he hadn't used one in the real world. "Let's go," Li Qi said. "We should collect the next optional target. We don't want others getting there first." Most of the optional collection targets in this trial mission were limited in quantity, and some were unique. Whoever reached them first would claim them exclusively. Okay. They took off together and flew toward the next collection site. Over the following time, they searched relentlessly for optional targets, but the trial mission offered only a limited supply. By the time the mission ended, they had managed to collect 4 optional items total. Back at the Sanxi Stellar Cultivation Camp, returning by spaceship, Li Qi received the camp's message, settling the points for this trial mission. When Li Qi opened his communicator, a settlement message from the Stellar Cultivation Camp flashed across the light screen. "Li Qi Royce, you have received 150 points for the basic mission reward and 100 points for ranking in the top 3 in the time trial," the system announced. For the additional mission, you collected 4 extra targets, earning 30 points each, totaling 120 points. Special reward: reporting the discovery of the thorn toothgrass to the Stellar Cultivation Camp earns you a 1,000-point reward. This trial mission has earned you a total of 1,370 points. Li Qi stared at the numbers, disbelief written across his face. A special reward of 1,000 points. That was enormous. From the moment he entered the Stellar Cultivation Camp, the total of all his previous gains probably hadn't even reached that. If thorn toothgrass warranted such a reward, it must be extremely valuable. He did a quick mental comparison. The Blood Blade Cone exchanged for around 800 points and sold for about 8 million lava coins on the open market, which meant 1 point was roughly 10,000 lava coins. He didn't know thorn toothgrass's exact market value, but even poor specimens would likely be worth far more than the camp's 1,000-point payout. 100 million lava coins would be 10,000 points. The camp's offer seemed paltry by comparison. A twinge of resentment flickered through him, but Li Qi swallowed it. If he hadn't reported the thorn toothgrass to the camp, he wouldn't have been allowed to take it. The camp had every right to claim it and set the reward. The difference in value stung, but thinking of the Virtual Universe Corporation's similar practices and remembering how Luo Feng in the original story had suffered comparable losses, he calmed himself. Settling his conscience, he turned his attention to how to spend the points. The 1,370 points from the mission, plus the 124 he already had, brought his total to 1,494 points. He closed the settlement window, opened the exchange interface, and made his choices. "I have 1,494 points," he murmured. "That's more than enough. I need a second-order force armor." He spent 803 points to purchase a second-order force armor. Next, he used 480 points on nutrient cabin enhancements for his genetics. Those 480 points were applied as 2 upgrades, 160 points to push his genetic primal energy to astral rank 5, and 320 more to reach astral rank 6. With that boost, his Psyker Master rank would climb to Astral Rank 8. With a 32-fold life gene level and an Astral Rank 8 Psyker Master rank, his baseline combat capability would no longer be inferior to a Universe-level First Order. He would still be weaker than a Universe-level First Order armed with a Third Order Mind Energy weapon, but he could survive. For the first time since entering the camp, he felt secure enough to contact his family. He had deliberately held back from contacting them for 2 years. Back then, he had been weak and afraid. If he died on a mission, he didn't want to add to their pain. His family had tried to reach him many times, but communications were cut off during camp expeditions. Now, with a decent chance of keeping himself alive, he could finally reconnect without constant fear. I'll contact Father as soon as I get back to the Sand Sea camp, he decided. A D-class transport delivered them to Sand Sea Star. Li Qi, Ian, Rolando, and the others returned to the Sand Sea Stellar Cultivation camp. He picked up his second-order force armor on the way, returned to his dormitory, put it on, and eagerly opened his communicator. Beep. Derek's familiar face appeared on the screen, his father's. 11, Derek began, but his face was on the screen only briefly before Wendy stepped in, pushing him aside. Li Qi recognized his mother's voice and saw the moisture glinting in her eyes. 11, you finally decided to contact us, she said, voice thick. Mother, Li Qi replied softly. When I first arrived at the camp, I was weak and had to focus on cultivation. Now my strength is much higher. I'll contact the family often from now on. Wendy stared at the son who'd grown so much. She wanted to reach out and touch his face the way she used to, but the distance between them made that impossible. Derek noticed his wife's distress and quickly changed the subject. 11, you're calling at the perfect time, he said. Your fourth sister is getting married tomorrow. The words hit Li Qi in the chest. Fourth sister is getting married, he echoed, a mix of surprise and emotion flooding him. She was nearly 10 years older than him. It was about time. The last time he'd seen her was at Chaoguang Academy. Back then, the family was struggling to keep their ranch. He'd thrown himself into cultivation and had only glimpsed his sister in passing. She had known the pressures he was under and had kept her distance so as not to disturb him. Li Qi tried to steady himself and asked, "Where is she marrying? Who's the groom?" "His name is Joshua," Derek said. "He's from the Shi Li tribe on the prairie, a direct descendant of an astral rank in that tribe. He just came out of the special training camp." Li Qi thought for a moment. He vaguely remembered seeing a Joshua with his sister at Chaoguang Academy. If it was the same man, then this was a love match. That would make her happy. "Please congratulate her for me," he said. After a pause, he made a decision. "Give fourth sister a wedding present from me, the Po Xiao sword." 11, are you sure? Derek's brow tightened. The Po Xiao sword was a damaged mind energy weapon, yes, but it had been a gift from Xiao Yi. Derek hadn't expected Li Qi to re-gift it to Xiao Si. "Yes," Li Qi replied firmly. He had made up his mind. "I'll do everything I can to revive Big Brother." "You're not planning to contact Xiao Si directly?" Derek asked. "Of course I am," Li Qi said. "Fourth sister has already broken through to planetary level and has her own communicator. I'll reach out to her myself later." "All right," Derek nodded, then ended the call. The light screen went dark. Li Qi felt a little stunned. He had been ready to chat with his mother a while longer. And on the other end, Wen Ni was still simmering with emotion. Chapter 86, Conversation and New Missions. "Derek, why did you turn off the communicator?" Mother Wen Ni scolded angrily. "I didn't get to finish my conversation with 11. Father Derek explained gently. 11 wanted to contact Little Fourth. After all, Little Fourth is getting married soon. The siblings probably have a lot to talk about. Wen Ni's anger cooled. "Even so, you could have waited until I finished." Her tone softened. "Isn't 11 going to contact us more often now?" Derek soothed her. "All right." Reluctant but placated, Wen Ni accepted it. After ending the call with his father, Li Qi dialed his fourth sister. "Fourth sister, congratulations!" A beautiful face filled the light screen. Lan Qi Royce, Li Qi's fourth sister. She smiled and teased. 11, I thought you wouldn't call." Li Qi's voice carried a touch of melancholy. "You're getting married and leaving the family. Even if I'm no longer officially in the family, I still want to see you off." Lan Ke tilted her head. Who said I'm leaving the family? Doesn't getting married mean leaving? Li Qi asked, puzzled. Joshua and I already talked. We'll be living with his family from now on. Joshua's family agreed? Li Qi was surprised. Why wouldn't they? Lanke gave him an appraising look. The Royce family has 3 astral rank powerhouses. Grandfather and third uncle both hold Kaoguang City councilor seats. We have far more influence than the Shili tribe. Li Qi's expression cleared. 2 councilor seats in Chaoguang City explained a lot. With that kind of political sway, it wasn't surprising the Shili tribe would give up a planetary level to keep the peace. I had father prepare the Poshao sword as your wedding gift, he said. The Poshao sword was supposed to be Big Brother's gift. Lan Ke protested. Take it, Li Qi insisted. A planetary-level psyker master like you still using bone cones would be embarrassing for a councilor family. Lan Ke hesitated, then noticed how resolute Li Qi's gaze had become. She relented with a smile. All right, I'll accept it. Curious, she asked. 11. Have you met any girls you like at the Stellar Cultivation camp? Li Qi froze for a moment, then shook his head. He still couldn't recall much of his past life. No. Lan Ke sounded a little disappointed. I thought you'd bring back an astral rank wife. After a bit more small talk, Li Qi ended the call. He contacted Borswell to begin the nutrient capsule enhancement and headed to the enhancement room. 10 days later, the process finished. His genetic primal energy had increased to astral rank 6, and his psyker master rank had reached astral rank 8. Wasting no time, Li Qi applied for a new trial mission and used the waiting period to get used to his enhanced power. The mission was another collection task. Few students participated, so he only earned just over 100 points. He used 100 points to ask Nan Ying, the domain master, for 2 pointers on his domain cultivation, which pushed his domain to the 4th layer. Then he applied for another trial mission, a hunting mission to eradicate star pirates. A D-class transport ship departed the San Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp, carrying Li Qi and 14 other students to the mission area. A month later, they rendezvoused with ships from 2 other stellar cultivation camps and waited for Lava Empire military personnel. They didn't have to wait long. In less than half a day, a C-class military vessel of the Lava Empire arrived. The students and their instructors boarded the military ship, which then set course for the mission target. Far from the busy Lava Empire shipping lanes, in an asteroid belt several light-years away, a B-class freighter slipped into the uninhabited field. The ship's intelligent AI guided it through the tumbling rocks and docked beside a colossal asteroid dozens of kilometers across. Its hatch opened, and an astral rank man stretched as he left and flew toward the asteroid. The asteroid's surface revealed a hidden passage that slid open for him. He flew inside along the familiar corridor, and after only a few seconds, his surroundings opened up. The asteroid had been hollowed out and converted into a base. He passed through the reception hall, no formalities required, he was well known here, and threaded his way through the maze of passages until he reached his destination. Ha ha! Brother Tongli, long time no see. A hearty laugh greeted him before he even stepped fully into the room. Tongli, with 2 small tentacles on his forehead, grinned as he entered. Long time no see, Brother Lu Taku. I heard you had something good here. I was on business in the Lava Empire and took the time to come check it out. Across the room sat a humanoid crocodile in battle armor, the crocodile man Lu Taku, an imposing figure who had reached universe rank 8. Of course I've got good stuff, Lu Taku said with a toothy grin. But it all depends on whether Brother Tongli finds it satisfactory. I'll know when I see it, Tongli replied. I don't have much time this trip. Show me. Lu Taku laughed. Since you're pressed for time, follow me. They walked toward the treasury, exchanging pleasantries. Tongli made a swift selection and paid for a few items. Just as he finished, alarms blared through the base. Chapter 87, Background and Encounters. The alarm cut through the air. Both Tongli and Lu Taku's expressions changed at once. Lu Taku snapped open his communicator and barked to the subordinate manning the monitoring center. What happened? Why is there an alarm? Boss, our external monitoring is being jammed. Severe interference. We can't get any readings from outside. Boom, boom, boom. From outside, Li Qi watched in stunned fascination as a meteor dozens of kilometers across had been split open. a huge hole revealing a modified interior passage. Star pirates had really outdone themselves to turn a meteorite into a base. The cosmic level instructor led the way into the meteorite, and nearly 20 students, Li Qi among them, flew after him. 3 violent explosions rocked the base in quick succession. The whole structure shuddered, valuables in the treasury tumbled and shattered, fragile items ruined, their worth destroyed. Tossed into the air by the tremor, Lu Taku grabbed for his comm and shouted, "Report the situation." There were explosions at 3 locations inside the base. The intruders split into 3 teams and used the connecting passages to bypass the entrance defenses. How did they do that? Lutaku's face darkened. His already cruel features grew even more terrifying. Why didn't the radar warn us? Boss, the enemy's scanning equipment is far more advanced than ours. It jammed our scanners, and with the external monitoring interference, we didn't detect them. It's most likely those mad dogs from the Lava Empire. Tell the men to activate the defenses. Lutaku barked orders, then spat. I told them ages ago to upgrade the scanning radar, but the idiots kept putting it off. At the mention of the Lava Empire, Tongli's expression changed. He gripped his right wrist with his left hand, regret flooding him. Damn it, he should have held back. How could he have lost control? Tongli was a collector who loved rare, strange treasures. Legitimately obtaining them was expensive, so he had once traveled to the Lava Empire and been introduced to Lu Taku, becoming a frequent customer. Buying from the Lava Empire skirted their laws, but usually the penalties were manageable. This time was different. This time he carried an extremely important treasure. The thought drove him to clutch at his chest. He had to get it back to the ancient Thunder Empire. If he failed, his family would be dead. Panic turned to desperation as he faced Lu Taku. Brother Lu Taku, get me out of here safely. Brother Tongli, you know I wish I could help, Lu Taku said earnestly, then his tone hardened. But I can barely protect myself. I don't have the capacity to help you too. He turned to leave the treasury, but Tongli blocked him. Lu Taku bristled. What do you mean by this? This isn't a request. It's an order, Tongli said coldly. I know which family from the ancient Thunder Empire is behind you. Lu Taku's eyes flashed dangerously. You're threatening me. It's not a threat. It's a reminder that I'm not an ordinary buyer, Tongli replied. Safe escort me out, and the Deluoluo Sa family will reward you. The Deluoluo Sa family? Lu Taku's face shifted. This was a world lord rank family, a powerhouse that had once produced an undying spiritual god. Brother Tongli, why didn't you say so earlier? He smiled, suddenly all courtesy. Come with me. I'll take you to a secret escape exit. He produced a third-order force battle axe from his spatial ring and led Tongli through the base. Checking the base map on his communicator as they moved, he saw many sectors marked in red, enemy incursions. Seeing the spread of red, Lu Taku inwardly grumbled. Tongli should have said this sooner. He'd wasted time. They flew through the passages for nearly a minute. Lu Taku warned quietly, stay close. We may have to go through areas already controlled by the enemy. From the map, the Lava Empire forces had not yet reached the exact corridor they'd need, but given how the Lava Empire treated star pirates, there would likely be universe-rank powerhouses in the assault team, and those broke through defenses fast. The area ahead could be breached any moment. If we run into a universe rank from the Lava Empire, don't worry about me. Head straight to the secret exit, Lu Taku transmitted. I've already sent you the exit coordinates and the ship location. The ship's entry password is the same as its activation password. Escape to the ship, then follow the map to a backup base and transfer to another untouched ship. Understood, Tongli replied. When I get back to the ancient Thunder Empire, I'll make sure your family is looked after. Lu Taku's mouth twitched into a grin. We're about to enter enemy territory. He turned them into a new passage, and almost at once, they ran into an unfamiliar squad. Lu Taku's expression changed. He hissed, Hide! I'll draw them away. At the same time, Li Qi and his team had entered that same connecting passage. They ran straight into a huge, ferocious crocodile man whose aura made the hairs on Li Qi's arms stand up. Universe rank, he thought. Without hesitation, Li Qi thrust up his heavy defense shield. The blood-blade cone disgorged and reassembled into an offensive-defensive form, the three-bladed flower, positioned behind the shield. The the Crocodile Man swung a third-order force battle axe. The axe's amplitude secret patterns flared, bathing the blade in blue light as it carved a sweeping arc. The axe struck the heavy defense shield. Bang! The first-order telekinesis weapon shattered, exploding into hundreds of black blades that scattered to the ground. A number were bent or deformed. The battle axe barely lost momentum and came down on the three-bladed flower. Bang! The second-order telekinesis weapon held for a moment, but the sheer force of the blow was terrifying. The axe cut through, exposing Li Qi's chest behind the ruined defenses. Chapter 88, Healing and Fighting. Bang! A third-order original force battle axe slammed into Li Qi's chest, and the impact sent him flying. Behind him was another corridor. Pain seared through his skull. A blue flash danced before his eyes. Then an intense ache in his chest hurled him backward. 2 seconds later, his back hit the metal wall, and he slid more than 10 meters before coming to a stop. Pfft! He spat a mouthful of fresh blood. Li Qi stared down at his chest. The second-order force armor over his heart had been ripped open, exposing a crimson metal box embedded in his chest. There were vertical gouges at the top and bottom of the box, but the surface itself remained unblemished. He coughed violently again, blood and fragments of tissue spilling from his mouth. His internal organs were damaged too. Clutching the crimson box, he saw his chest had caved in slightly. The edges of the indentation were grotesquely ragged. Yet the wounds were already knitting themselves, new flesh crawling over the metal. Li Qi poured genetic primal energy into the healing, grateful. If that crimson box hadn't taken the blow, his injuries would have been far worse. He might have been mortally wounded, or worse. That alligator man is too strong, he thought. The original force weapon he used was definitely third order. That strike tore through my heavy defense disc first. My mind power was disrupted. My brain went numb. By the time I tried to deploy my domain, it was too late. The enemy was universe rank and terrifyingly fast. Li Qi had managed only a split-second scan with his mind power before the axe struck. He had time only to brace for defense. If he'd been able to activate his domain sooner, the blow's force would have been reduced and his injuries less catastrophic. At the junction of the passage, dozens of meters away, Lu Taku, the Universe Rank 8 Alligator Man, was cutting a swath through the students. Wearing third-order force armor and wielding a third-order original force battle axe, he paid no heed to the Astral Rank students' first-order original force weapons. Each swing felled someone. Some were killed outright, others maimed. In seconds, Li Qi's team of nearly 20 had lost over half their number. A cosmic-level instructor arrived on the scene and immediately released his domain to envelop and slow Lu Taku, cutting off the slaughter. His mind power swept the area. When he saw Li Qi crumpled in the corridor, badly hurt but alive, he breathed a sigh of relief. With target number 1 of the Empire's Cultivation Planet Department alive and not in mortal danger, he turned his focus to the Alligator Man. The secret patterns on the instructor's arc blade disc glowed. "Domain!" he shouted. Lu Taku saw the domain spread and knew escape was unlikely. He retreated deeper into the base, toward another passage. "Brother Tongli, get out alive and take care of my family," he said as he fled. He'd been born a slave, and a chip still sat in his brain. He was risking everything to free his family. "Don't even think about escaping," the instructor barked, manipulating the arc blade disc to chase. The two of them clashed and fought deeper into the complex. 3 weaker students were ordered by the Stellar Cultivation Camp to carry the seriously wounded back to the ship for treatment. The rest, terrified at the prospect of facing a universe-rank foe without a cosmic-level mentor, followed their leader. Li Qi scanned with his mind power and saw the others withdrawing with the instructor. His injuries had stabilized, and his healing was progressing. He was preparing to catch up when his mind power picked up another presence coming his way. He didn't recognize the newcomer and immediately reconfigured his blood blade cone into the 3-bladed flower, spinning like a bamboo dragonfly, to intercept. Earlier, when his heavy defense disc had still been intact, he would have preferred deploying the blood edge blade, the cone's pure offensive form. But with parts of the disc warped and unrecoverable, his best option was the 3-bladed flower, which offered both offense and defense. At the passage junction, Tongli had just led the Alligator Man away, and was making for the escape route when the three-bladed flower whirred toward him. He drew a sword at his hip, a soft sword that solidified at the press of a button, its amplitude secret patterns igniting as the blade stiffened. He slashed at the spinning weapon. The strike was powerful enough to repel the three-bladed flower. For Li Qi, whose mind power could match a universe-level first order, that the opponent, constant star level 7, could beat back his attack with a single stroke meant the sword was no ordinary second-order weapon. It had to be at least second order, probably stronger. This attack intensity, Li Qi thought, almost certainly a third-order original force weapon. An astral-rank star pirate carrying a third-order original force weapon was not simple. Tongli might have other cards up his sleeve. Li Qi didn't take chances. He widened his focus and unleashed his domain fully. Green light rippled outward and swallowed Tongli. Tongli immediately recognized the kind of domain Li Qi had used and panicked. What the hell? Since when do constant star-level soldiers in the Lava Empire also have domains? He cursed inwardly. He'd assumed the opponent was a lone, middling psyker, someone he could finish quickly. Instead, the domain bound and suppressed him. His speed faltered, his strength ebbed, and he could barely resist the three-bladed flower. He cursed the domain's strength. Bastard! Why is his suppression so powerful? He swung his sword to block, but the three-bladed flower suddenly disintegrated, slipped around his blade, and reassembled into the blood-edge blade. Clang. The metal blade struck his chest with a ringing impact, slicing through force armor. A smear of crimson flashed at the wound before the force armor began to regenerate. Li Qi watched Tongli stagger under the blow and felt a measure of relief. The blood-edge blade had cut through the opponent's protection easily, only a second-order force armor. If Tongli had been wearing third-order armor, Li Qi knew it would take him far longer, maybe even a prohibitive amount of time, to kill him. After discovering his opponent wore second-order force armor, Li Qi's blood-edge assault grew even more relentless, an unbroken minute of ferocious strikes. Tongli, protected by second-order force armor, dared not try to meet the telekinetic second-order weapon blade to blade. Under the crushing pressure of the domain, he could only struggle to hang on. No, I can't hold this. Tongli's panic flared. In raw strength, he was only an ordinary astral rank 8 martial artist. The reason he'd survived so long under Li Qi's onslaught was a secret technique. But that technique burned through genetic primal energy like wildfire. He should have lasted longer, but after just over a minute, he was nearing his limit. Stop! I am! Tongli began to transmit, but before he could finish the message, the crescent-shaped blood-edge blade bypassed his sword and slashed straight at his throat. Pfft! Even through the second-order force armor, the strike tore a gash in his neck. Blood ran down his hand as he clapped it over the wound. Damn it! A grunt from the Lava Empire dares to wound me! Tongli roared, furious and disbelieving. His older sister had married Ainio, the domain lord, and since then, Tongli had never been hurt. Now he might die at the hands of a lowly Lava Empire soldier. He tried again to transmit his name, to expose who he was. But the blood-edge blade that had just struck him disintegrated and reformed into the shape of a three-bladed flower. In a horrifying instant, it enveloped Tongli's head and tore it free like a carnivorous plant devouring prey. Huh? Li Qi watched Tongli's headless body slump to the floor, blood spouting from the severed neck. He tilted his head in puzzled curiosity as he stepped over the corpse, glancing at the third-order original force weapon, an impressive battle sword, clutched by the enemy instructor. He was tempted, but ready to press the pursuit. On a supremely prosperous planet in the ancient Thunder Empire, a vast, luxurious manor belonged to Ainio de Luo, the domain lord. The de Luo family was a world lord-ranked dynasty, one of the empire's top houses, second only to the imperial family. Ainio stared at a light screen, face dark as thunder. The news it displayed had enraged him. Tongli Stein, his most beloved wife's younger brother, was dead. If Tongli's death alone had been the whole story, Ainio might not have been so furious. He doted on many women, and his sister-in-law was only one of them. What fueled his wrath was that Tongli had been carrying an extremely important treasure, and he died in the Lava Empire, not in the ancient Thunder Empire. Here, Ainio's family's influence could have reclaimed whatever Tongli had carried, but in the Lava Empire, it would be difficult. Bang! Enio smashed his favorite wine glass onto the floor and bellowed, "Someone!" A universe rank man entered and saluted. "Lord Enio." "Go and exterminate the Stein family," Enio snarled. The man bowed deeply. "Yes, Lord Enio." He left without asking questions and began assembling forces to wipe out the Stein family. Back at the Star Pirate base, Li Chi had nearly left when something caught his eye, a faint protrusion at the center of Tong Li's chest. He stopped, walked back, and directed the three-bladed flower to reform into the blood edge blade. A slash of crimson light cut through the opening of the second-order force armor with a clear metallic clang, exposing something with a crimson metallic sheen beneath. "As I thought, there's something there." Li Chi's face brightened. When he had struck Tong Li's chest earlier, the sound had been odd. He'd suspected the man wore something like the crimson light box he himself kept on his chest. Now his suspicion was confirmed. Tong Li's armor hadn't regenerated because its owner was dead, so Li Chi easily peeled back the split armor and pried the hidden item free. He held a crimson light box in his hands. Li Chi grinned. If it could be kept inside a crimson light box, whatever was inside must be valuable. A flicker of unease passed through him. A star pirate carrying a crimson light box wasn't necessarily just a low-level raider. Was he going to get into trouble for killing him? Even if trouble came, what could they do? He was a student of the Lava Empire's stellar cultivation camp. This had been an assigned trial mission. Any side that wanted to make an issue would have to go through the Lava Empire first. The Lava Empire's emperor might not be an undying spiritual god, but he was a world lord rank powerhouse comparable to a top-tier undying spiritual god. Li Chi refused to believe anyone behind this star pirate would risk offending the Empire. He tucked Tong Li's crimson light box beside his own, glanced once more at the third-order battle sword, then headed off to catch up with the instructor. The sword tempted him. Third-order original force weapons could significantly boost a student's power, but the stellar cultivation camp forbade students from claiming such arms. A crimson light box was just a trophy and personal item. It offered little direct improvement. A third-order weapon was different and was meant to be cleared by the Empire's military instead. When Li Chi arrived, the cosmic-level instructor had already boxed in the ferocious crocodile man, Lu Taku. Though Lu Taku was Universe Rank 8 and carried a third-order axe and force armor, the instructor, also a Universe Rank, wielded a third-order mind energy weapon and force armor, backed by a domain and secret techniques. The crocodile man was utterly suppressed. The instructor's arc blade disc transformed into a streak of golden light. In Lu Taku's desperate, resigned eyes, it severed his head. Under the instructor's leadership, Li Chi and the other teams smashed through the Star Pirate's inner defenses. The previous push to break the line shifted into a mop-up. They swept through the base, rooting out stragglers. 2 hours later, the Stellar Cultivation Camp sent word. The trial mission was complete. All teams were to return to their respective camps. Chapter 90. Faults and Calculations. After more than a month on the road, Li Chi returned to the Sanxi Stellar Cultivation Camp. Far away in the ancient Thunder Empire, World Lord Enio was watching the same footage, the light screen replaying the fight between Li Chi and Tong Li. An astral rank cultivator with a 4th-level domain, and he even served with the Lava Empire's forces to wipe out star pirates. He must be a student from the Lava Empire's Stellar Cultivation Camp, Enio muttered, brow tightening. The discovery set him on edge. This was worse than an ordinary annoyance. The Lava Empire was already a power he dared not provoke, and the Stellar Cultivation Camp was one of its core institutions, nowhere for him to interfere openly. More than that, the treasure he had spent heavily to obtain had been taken. He had even diverted his family's funds in secret to buy it. Am I just going to let him walk away with that treasure? Enio ground his teeth. The sum he'd skimmed from family coffers had been huge, nearly 2 Hunyuan units. If the old ancestor learned he had spent that much, Enio would lose any chance at becoming the family heir. If he could bring the treasure back and present it to the old ancestor, his prospects would soar. But it was gone now, taken by an astral rank youth he could have crushed with a finger, yet could not touch. If only I'd gone myself, he thought bitterly. If he could, he he would have dragged Tongli back and given him a beating for his blunder. Tongli had served him faithfully for centuries and never erred. When a mistake finally happened, it was a catastrophic one. The Luo family was in a decisive period. Enio had been maneuvering to become heir. Because he was younger, he had once stood a better chance than the other World Lord contenders. But now his prospects had faded, worse than even the weakest candidate. Becoming heir wasn't just a title. It meant the family would sink immense resources into grooming the successor to World Lord rank. Their old ancestor had fewer than 100,000 years left to live. They needed a new World Lord to take his place. I must find a way to fix this, Enio told himself. He ran through options and dismissed most. He dared not travel to the Lava Empire to harass Li Qi. The name of the Lava Emperor carried weight through the Qianwu universe. While he mulled the problem, he watched the purchased video again, the footage he had secretly acquired from a family that backed the Star Pirates base. When the clip showing Li Qi's rapid recovery from grievous wounds played, Enio's eyes brightened with a plan. A fourth-stage domain shows talent, and that rapid bodily recovery fits the source of life's special ability, he whispered. The idea grew more appealing the longer he held it. Whether it's actually source of life or not, I can claim it probably is. If I can capture him and confirm it, or at least get the treasure back, that will cover my mistake. He decided to present the claim to the old ancestor. If he framed the matter as both a discovery of a likely source of life and an admission that he'd used family funds, he might turn the disaster into an opportunity to curry favor and salvage his chance at succession. With that resolved, Enio rose and left for the old ancestor's residence. Half an hour later, he stood waiting outside the manor. A servant led him in, and after a short flight through the halls, he found Daniel de Luo Sa, the family's old ancestor, tending a plant. Daniel, though appearing middle-aged, carried the faint pall of an approaching twilight about him, the aura of a great lifespan winding down. Enio, Daniel said without looking up as he snipped a branch, "Is there something you need?" Enio bowed respectfully. "Old ancestor, I've found an astral rank youth who likely possesses the source of life's special ability." Daniel paused in his pruning and turned to look at him. "Are you certain?" "About 90%, Enio replied confidently. "I have proof." He opened his communicator and projected the footage, Li Qi's rapid healing, the use of his domain against Tongli. Daniel watched coolly, then asked, "How did you find him?" Enio hesitated, then forced himself on. "I used family funds to purchase a treasure that grants comprehension of law, but my subordinate—" He trailed off, letting the implication hang. Daniel's eyelids lowered as he considered the video. From the way Li Qi's body recovered and the other signs, it did indeed look like Source of Life. Source of Life was one of the universe's top 3 special abilities. It boosted Wood Origin law talent, accelerated physical and energy recovery, and even allowed swift divine power regeneration after becoming undying. The de Luo family had once produced an undying spiritual god. Though that figure had perished long ago, he had left behind knowledge only a few families could access. Daniel's insight told him this discovery was worth pursuing. "A high probability of Source of Life is worth gambling on," he said at last. Cultivating a World Lord from within the family would be far cheaper than buying one. If even one of his descendants could awaken Source of Life and be nurtured, the family's chance of producing a new World Lord within the old ancestor's remaining years would rise sharply. "Send people to capture him," Daniel ordered. Enio blinked. "Old ancestor, he's in the Lava Empire's stellar cultivation camp. How can we capture him?" Daniel considered, then spoke with the casual certainty of someone used to making machinations. "The stellar cultivation camp likes to clear out star pirates, create more star pirate incidents, and push them to eliminate them. If we provoke the right response, we can lure him out." Enio's eyes lit up. "I understand, old ancestor. If you handle this well, I will overlook your misuse of the family funds," Daniel added, returning to his pruning. "Yes!" Enio's relief was palpable. He hurried away to arrange forces, already picturing how he would correct his mistake and reap the reward. Long after Enio departed, Daniel glanced in the direction the World Lord had taken and made his own cold calculation. If the plan worked and forces from the Lava Empire arrived, Enio, who had schemed and now offered this opportunity, would be the one to placate them. Could the Lava Empire dare to bring war upon a dying world lord for the sake of an astral rank youth? Daniel did not think so. If the attempt succeeded, the family would gain a rare treasure and perhaps even a new path to produce a world lord, and Ennio would be bound to them for resolving the problem he caused. After returning to the San-Si Stellar Cultivation Camp, Li Qi went straight back to his dormitory to work out how to open the newly acquired Crimson Light Box. Since it had been stored in a Crimson Light Box, it had to contain something valuable. He was eager to see whether it might help his cultivation. If he hadn't mastered the basic method for opening and closing Crimson Light Boxes, a new one would be useless. He held the box up and studied the engraved secret runes carefully. Each Crimson Light Box used a different opening sequence, both on the outside and the inside, but most of the runes were reused across boxes. By methodically testing combinations and following the rune's logic, he could open this new box eventually, even if it took time. Crimson Light Boxes of this grade generally protected whatever was inside from external harm, rather than focusing on extreme secrecy. Their rune locks weren't impossibly complex. The manufacturers never planned much for loss. Only domain lords and world lords usually used them. If such a box were lost and fell into the wrong hands, the finder would likely be eliminated. Li Qi muttered the reasoning to himself and began cracking the rune lock on the second Crimson Light Box. After nearly an hour of failed attempts, he switched to the first box and used the residual undying aura leaking from the fifth-order mind energy weapon fragment inside to temper his will. He hadn't yet understood the fire law runes on that fragment, but the lingering aura of the undying spiritual god helped his will forming immensely. Staring at the fiery red shard, he felt a twinge of regret. As he used its aura to strengthen his will, the residual energy would be consumed. He estimated he needed about a year to adapt fully to the lingering aura. Willpower mattered. With the fragment's aura, Li Qi improved his will greatly. He judged he could now withstand ordinary universe-rank Psyker Master's mind power attacks. After returning the fragment to Crimson Box number 1, he went back to trying to open the second box. A year passed in the blink of an eye. Most of Li Qi's days were spent probing rune combinations and accepting trial missions. 2 in that period, both low yield at roughly 150 points each. Domain Lord Nanying still provided guidance from time to time. Rumors circulated through the San-Si camp that the Lava Empire was suffering a wave of star pirate disease. Gangs of star pirates popping up everywhere. Many recent trial missions were hunts to annihilate them. Then one evening, while testing another sequence, he heard a soft click. Crimson Light Box number 2 opened a narrow crack. For a moment, Li Qi was stunned. He'd tried less than half the possible rune combinations, and yet the lock had released. The anticlimax that followed surprised him. What had been an urgent desire at the start had turned into a level-clearing game, and now that the level was passed, he had no appetite to play again. He tapped his tongue against his teeth. No longer any fun. Still, a box opened was a box opened. He eased the lid to peer inside and withdrew a dark green leaf. It was half the size of his palm, as thin as an ordinary leaf, but with a hardness like jade. The petiole, stem, and veins were dark green. The blade itself was translucent. At first it only seemed strange, but the longer he looked, the more the leaf felt otherworldly. An invisible fluctuation tugged at his attention. When Li Qi extended his mind power toward it, the leaf drew him in. He saw in a flash of vision a jade-colored tree, vague but unmistakable. Clarity followed the vision, and with it came the faint signature of a universe origin. That fluctuation fit perfectly with his own genetic primal energy. A law fluctuation, he realized involuntarily. He had just comprehended a law. The recognition hit him hard. He had, just then, comprehended the wood origin law. It felt incredibly compatible with him. How could such a treasure be hidden on an astral rank star pirate? The thought made no sense, and curiosity pulled at him until he leaned closer. This time, when he sank his mind power into the leaf, he didn't see only a tree. He felt as if he were inside the leaf itself, seeing its petiole, stem, and veins from within. The sensation deepened into a dizzying sense that endless secrets lay folded inside the thin jade surface. Then an intense, splitting pain cleaved through his skull. His mind power snapped back from the leaf as if ripped free. Ah! The cry escaped him involuntarily as his soul felt bruised. He couldn't muster even a sliver of mind power. The pain was like a trauma that bled into his very essence. He clutched his head and curled up on the bed, genetic primal energy flaring to envelop his body as he tried to steady himself. He fought to ease the pain with his own strength, but nothing much helped. After a long time, the ache finally subsided. When he opened his communicator, it showed a full day had passed. He didn't dare look at the leaf again. He put it carefully back into Crimson Light Box number 2 and closed it, then hugged both boxes to his chest and let out a long, shaky breath. That leaf could not be viewed again. Not yet. Lychee felt like someone who had eaten too much and was on the verge of sickness. He'd absorbed more than his current capacity could process. If he forced himself to probe further, he could become lost in the leaf's mysteries, suffer worse headaches, or even cause soul damage or death. He wasn't recovered enough to safely use that trace of the wood origin law in the real world. It would be better to explore it within a controlled environment. So he donned his consciousness sensor and entered the virtual universe. Chapter 92. Target appears. In the virtual universe combat space, high above an endless prairie, Lychee guided the three-bladed flower through a ring of astral-rank martial artists. The weapon, normally blood-red, now carried a faint green tinge where a trace of the wood origin law had seeped into it, as if the blade were poisoned. The three-bladed flower whirled like a bamboo dragonfly. One petal snapped against a defender's battle shield with a loud crack, shredding the shield and snapping the man's arm. The blow left him grievously wounded. Another blade spun through the air and cleaved a second-order force armor warrior clean in half. Unstoppable, the three-bladed flower tore through the rest of the formation. In moments, all of them lay dead. Lychee stared, scarcely breathing. With that sliver of wood origin law enhancing the weapon, the results were beyond what he'd expected, feats that would be difficult even in the real world. His 32-fold life gene level granted him immense mind power. That power alone could crush several martial artists of the same rank, but never so effortlessly. Too strong, he muttered, exhilaration and disbelief warring in his chest. I only barely applied the wood origin law pattern, and the weapon's power multiplied several times. He felt both thrilled and helpless. If he could get a mind-energy weapon with native wood law secret patterns, the increase in his strength might be enormous, but such weapons were rare and typically fourth order at minimum. With his current status and resources, acquiring one was nearly impossible. Lychee opened the combat space interface and dialed up the challenge. This time, he set the opponent number to 10. Far off in the sky, 10 astral rank martial artists materialized, each a rank 8 fighter, armed with a second-order original force weapon and a battle shield. Lychee sent the three-bladed flower spinning. With that trace of wood origin law, the blade became indestructible. It flashed through 10 enemies like a storm and left 10 corpses in its wake. He laughed out loud. It wasn't just the pleasure of slaughtering opponents in the virtual universe. More than that, his excitement came from the fact he had comprehended a law, the wood origin law. Comprehending a law was the mark of a true genius in the Cosmic Peak Genius Battle Finals. A player could luck into the top 1,000 of a universe country and qualify for the finals without understanding any law, but those competitors were cannon fodder in the finals, not even worthy of a supporting role. To be a supporting figure, you needed to at least take part in an arena match. Otherwise, you were just expendable. I'm qualified to step onto the stage, he thought, pride warming him. Now I just need more time to get stronger. To grow further after law comprehension, one usually had to enter secret realms like the lava secret realm, but he still had no clue how to get into that realm. A ping cut through his thoughts. The virtual universe warned him that something in his real body had triggered an anomaly. Lychee logged back to the real world. His wrist communicator was aglow with a new, important message. The Stellar Cultivation Camp, notifying him that a new trial mission had begun and that he needed to board the ship immediately. This early? He was surprised. This would be his 10th trial mission, and it was another hunting mission. but he hadn't expected it to arrive so soon. He took the Bloodblade cone and the heavy defense disc he'd recently exchanged for and headed to the Sand Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp's docking point. Once all the students had arrived, the shuttle rose and slipped into the clouds. A month later, Li Qi and the other trainees transferred to a Lava Empire military spaceship. Their objective: suppress a gathering of star pirates. Inside the troop transport, several students muttered among themselves. "It's another star pirate suppression job," one said. "Lately, most of the hunting missions have been this. Used to be a lot more planetary hunts." "Yeah, star pirates are getting bolder. No matter how we clamp down, new groups keep springing up." Li Qi listened. He'd noticed the trend too. Where pirate operations used to be rare and well concealed, now groups seemed to appear in clusters again and again, like weeds that couldn't be rooted out. It explained the steady string of suppression missions. A day later, the Lava Empire ship reached the outskirts of a pirate lair. As usual, they dispatched several assault craft to strike along different approaches, each route covered by a universe-rank martial artist. While Li Qi and the other students engaged the lair, several hundred kilometers away, a small ship lay hidden inside an asteroid, its E-class scanning radar masked against the military vessel's sensors. Inside that cramped craft, 3 universe-rank fighters in third-order force armor were lounging and watching surveillance feeds. One was a gray-furred ape man, another a spotted leopard man, the third a blue-skinned, shark-faced humanoid. The ape man grunted, "Wonder if anyone from the Stellar Cultivation Camp is on that operation." The leopard man smirked and tossed out a bet. "I'll put 100 million gulai coins on it. There are students from the camp this time." The shark person scoffed. "I'll bet against you. There aren't any of their trainees here." The ape man yawned. "I'm bored. I just want to finish this and go home. The target hasn't shown up yet." "You miss your wife," teased the leopard man. "Been here a year and you're already losing it," the shark person said. "Imagine 10 years of this." Before the conversation could snowball, the ape man leaned forward and focused on the screen. "Targets in view," he said. On the surveillance feed, the pirate lair trembled as the Lava Empire's team stormed in along multiple axes. Then every screen on the small ship flashed red and alarms began to wail. "The target has appeared," all 3 said at once. "Prepare to intercept," the shark person barked. "Start the engines. We'll capture the target." They didn't wait. The small ship powered up, punched free of the asteroid's cover, and hurtled toward the pirate lair. Outside the Star Pirate's lair, aboard a Lava Empire warship, a hidden chamber glowed with the light of a massive display. On it, a small vessel was shown closing on the lair. A universe-rank operative reported, "Ender, radar shows a small ship approaching." Ender was a broad-shouldered Guangtu Dahan with fire-red skin and protruding fangs. He tapped the armrest of his chair, then stroked one fang with a cold smile. "Heh? After all their escapes, they finally show up," he said. "We'll strike once they're inside." Another universe-rank officer leaned forward, voice low. "Ender, the Cultivation Planet Department's #1 focus target is in there. What if they're coming for #1? Ender clicked his tongue, concern flickering across his features. #1's safety mattered. "Have the cosmic-level instructor from the Stellar Cultivation Camp take direct protection of #1, he ordered. "I don't want the Cultivation Planet Department making a mess of things." "Yes." The other man sent the order at once. Inside the Star Pirate's lair, 3 cosmic-level instructors who led the Stellar Cultivation Camp felt the Lava Empire intelligence ping them through mind power. They read that a ship was approaching and that the #1 focus target needed protection. The 3 instructors exchanged mind-sent messages and agreed to press the attack while converging on a single direction. That way, if any team ran into trouble, they could quickly support one another. Outside, the small ship drew near the meteor that housed the lair. Its hatch yawned open without slowing. 6 figures shot out and rocketed toward the giant rock below. The ship didn't hover. It sped away under automated control to circle back and pick them up when the job was done. The control room the 6 had just left was cramped. Besides the on-duty trio, 3 more universe-rank operatives had squeezed in. The group was led by a blue-skinned shark-like man who barked orders with an intimidating calm. "Ennio values this mission above all. Success is the only option. Failure is not permitted. You all know what happens if we fail." The 5 others shivered at the unspoken threat. Failure meant consequences they could not bear. Better to die in battle than return a failure, they all thought. "Monkey," the shark man said, turning to the ape-like psyker master among them by nickname. "Your task is to capture the target. Do not kill them. We must deliver the target alive to the ancient Thunder Empire." The ape man, who had been rambunctious and carefree up to now, grew solemn. "I understand. I won't kill the target." "The rest of you cover Monkey," the leader continued. "Stop any stellar cultivation camp or Lava Empire universe rank individuals who interfere. If you can't, use that thing." He paused. "The goal is simple. Guarantee Monkey completes the capture. Once we have the target, extraction will pick us up." Yes, the 4 nodded, faces drawn. They all knew what that thing meant. A last resort so terrible that using it would make them wish for death. But mission failure was worse. The 6 figures plunged through the meteor's outer defenses and shot into the complex. Inside, passages twisted like the innards of a machine. The ape man extended his psyker mind power and began to scan for the target's signal. "The target is at," he transmitted, using a code name for Li Qi they had all memorized along with a map of the lair. The others understood instantly. Rather than take the expected routes, the 6 used the mind energy weapons they carried to bore through walls and bypass corridors. With coordinated strikes, they carved a shortcut through room after room, closing on Li Qi's location far faster than any standard team could. Li Qi had learned a hard lesson after being wounded by the crocodilian Lu Ta Ku in a previous trial. He was constantly scanning with mind power now, on alert for universe rank operatives appearing out of nowhere. A thunderous boom rocked the passage behind him. Debris rained into the corridor as a wall exploded inward. Li Qi's mind power flared to the disturbance. Where the wall had been, a huge hole now yawned and figures spilled out. 1, 2, 3, 6 universe rank individuals. His face went white. How did 6 universe rank individuals get here so fast? He thought, and then he sent a mind message to the cosmic level instructor leading the advanced team. "Instructor, 6 universe rank individuals are behind us." "What?" The instructor's response crackled with alarm. 6? They got here that fast? He immediately contacted the other 2 cosmic level instructors and pinged the Lava Empire warship for support, telling them about the sudden attackers. There had been a warning of an approaching ship, so the instructor hadn't been surprised someone was coming, but 6 universe rank operatives arriving so quickly was still beyond expectation. "There are 6 universe rank behind us," he shouted to his students. "Evacuate down this passage. I'll buy you time." Panic broke out. The students bolted, accelerating down the corridor. Even 3 universe rank adversaries would have been overwhelming. 6 was nightmarish. The leading instructor, however, turned back and fired a message at Li Qi through mind power. "Protect yourself. Don't worry about anyone else." Li Qi, already sprinting for his life, replied simply, "Yes." He hadn't intended to stand and fight those 6. With the instructor's order, his own retreat was vindicated. No one could blame him later for preserving himself. The 6 universe rank assailants pressed their pursuit. When they saw someone advancing toward them from the opposite direction, intending to block their path, their leader's mind message snapped through the line. "Ignore him. Let one of you hold him. The rest continue to pursue the target." They angled to intercept. The 6 closed in on Li Qi's group and on the universe rank instructor who had come to slow them down. Chapter 94, Speed of Life and Death. "Don't even think about getting past me," the universe rank instructor shouted as he unleashed his domain. A swirl of fiery red light bloomed outward from him and quickly wrapped around the 6 universe ranks who had arrived. "A domain," came the alarmed transmissions. The 6 pursuers felt an immediate chill. They had not expected the first universe rank they ran into to possess a domain. With a domain-level expert blocking their path, they couldn't simply storm through, at least not without paying a price. Time was precious, and none of them wanted to waste it on a single defender. The blue-skinned shark person in the lead transmitted quickly. "One of us holds him with a capture net. The rest push forward." At once, a leopard person among them produced a large, gun-shaped weapon from his spatial ring and aimed it at the universe rank instructor. The barrel alone was more than 20 centimeters across. Clearly a C9 grade capture net gun. The instructor, experienced and well-traveled, recognized it immediately. A weapon that fired a tough rope net strong enough to catch Ninth-Order Universe-level Yao beasts and vicious beasts. Bang! The gun fired. A spherical projectile, over 20 centimeters across, streaked toward the Universe rank instructor. Seeing the capture net, he hurled his shield at the shooter to block it, but he hadn't accounted for the ape-man Psyker Master among their ranks. A mind energy weapon blasted out and knocked the shield aside just as the net bullet grazed its edge. The projectile detonated and a giant net unfurled, filling the passage and lashing toward the instructor. He tried to withdraw, but the net expanded and closed too fast. It only partially trapped him. It wasn't an unbreakable snare, but it was enough to impede him and buy time. 5 universe ranks slipped past him while he struggled with the entangling mesh. "Damn it," the instructor snarled. Enraged at being treated as a distraction, he flung his blade at the leopard person and unleashed his domain against the attacker. The leopard's slash rang off the blade with a clang. He could not overpower the domain, but he hammered his strikes relentlessly to keep the instructor pinned and delay his escape. The plan worked. Forced to focus on cutting free, the instructor could only hold a stalemate and watch the 5 pursuers continue down the corridor. Ahead, Li Qi was flying at full tilt. His speed already outstripped the other astral rank students by a wide margin, and he used his mind power to sweep the area. He detected 5 universe ranks closing in rapidly from behind. They caught up so fast, Li Qi thought, startled. He quickly guessed what had happened. The 5 had used one teammate to hold the instructor while the others pushed on. Universe ranks flew far faster than astral ranks, so they were able to close quickly. But something about their behavior puzzled him. Rather than attacking the students at the rear, the 5 ignored everyone else and headed straight for him. "What's going on?" he cursed inwardly. The only thing he could think of that might explain why they'd single him out was the crimson light box he carried. Unwilling to be captured without a fight, Li Qi released his own domain to slow the pursuers and pushed his energy-burning escape technique to the limit. For a time, he kept pace with the 5 universe ranks, preventing them from closing the distance. "How is that possible?" one of them radioed, astonished. "His domain is so strong. Not only that, his flight speed is unbelievable," another added. "He's an astral rank 8th order Psyker Master. We should be far faster than him." The 5 were stunned. The slowest among them was only a 4th order universe rank, yet none could overtake Li Qi. The blue-skinned shark person snapped a terse order through the group. "Keep chasing. He wasn't that fast before. He must be using a secret technique. Something that grants this speed will burn out quickly." That convinced the others to press on. Li Qi heard the order, and his alarm deepened. His genetic primal energy was nearly exhausted. If nothing changed, the 5 would eventually catch him. He felt the pressure of dwindling reserves, and then relief flared through him. Around the bend ahead, his mind power had already picked up 2 more universe rank figures approaching, cosmic-level instructors from the stellar cultivation camp. Instructors from that camp would almost certainly have domains and should be powerful enough to stop the pursuers. 2 universe ranks are coming, the ape-man transmitted to his companions as he spotted them. "What? Already?" The other pursuers responded in shock. They had plotted routes through this modified star pirate's lair, twisting passages meant to slow pursuit. For the 2 instructors to appear so quickly, they must have taken shortcuts, breaking through walls or using other means. There was no other explanation. Teeth clenched, the blue-skinned shark person barked, "Leave someone to hold them back. The rest continue the chase. We cannot fail this mission." The others fell silent, suppressing any doubts or hesitation. Failure was not an option. The cost would be too great. One of them would stay to stall the incoming instructors while the rest pushed forward after Li Qi and the Crimson Light Box. 2 cosmic-level instructors from the stellar cultivation camp, one of them a Psyker Master, had raced over and spotted Li Qi flying away before they even rounded the corner. They shared a quick thought. "Hurry. The Cultivation Planet Department's #1 target is right ahead. The enemy might still have a capture net gun. Don't let them restrain you. The military is coming. Hold them off. They swung around the corner, and seeing Li Qi, transmitted at once, "You go on. We'll hold them back. Keep escaping down this passage. The military has already arrived." Li Qi bowed his thanks and brushed past. His mind power tracked the two instructors turning to face the pursuers, and he silently thanked all three who had blocked the enemy for him. He also knew why they risked themselves. The Lava Empire valued his talent highly. Having just comprehended the Wood Origin Law, he felt he had not disappointed that trust. Behind them, the 5 pursuers had already worked out a plan when they saw the 2 new cosmic-level instructors. One of them drew a C9 grade capture net gun from his spatial ring, aimed at the pair, and fired. A capture net projectile over 20 centimeters across hurtled forward. The 2 instructors had been warned by their companions about these star pirates' capture nets and responded instantly. A third-order mind energy weapon in defensive form reassembled into a shield and intercepted the projectile. The net burst open on contact and slithered out to envelop the mind energy weapon. "Trying to use a capture net gun against us? How naive," the Psyker Master said lightly. His mind energy weapon dissolved into hundreds of blades that ripped through the gaps in the net and then reformed into its defensive shape. At the same time, the other instructor expanded his domain. A broad, earthy yellow light rolled out and washed over the 5 pursuers. The sight tightened their chests. Capture nets were devastating against ordinary martial artists, but far less effective against Psyker Masters. Mind energy weapons could block and reassemble, and most capture nets became useless after the weapon disintegrated. The blue-skinned shark person leading them barked, "Monkey! Chase him! You must capture the target. The rest of us will hold them off." Realizing the 2 cosmic-level opponents were too strong to bypass, the ape-man Psyker Master, the one they called Monkey, ripped open the nearby wall. The barrier, only B1 grade metal, could not withstand a third-order mind energy attack and burst under the blow. "Don't even think about it," one of the martial artist instructors shouted and moved to intercept the breach. 2 more capture net shots cracked out. One bolt streaked toward the martial artist instructor, another aimed for the Psyker Master instructor. A mind energy weapon blocked one projectile, which then opened and wrapped around the weapon. The martial artist instructor, recognizing the threat, threw out a spare shield from his spatial ring. The incoming net snagged it and burst open around the shield. With the net interfering, the martial artist instructor wanted to give chase, but was held by the 2 cosmic-level instructors. In the confusion, the ape-man Psyker Master slipped through the breach and sped away. Enraged, the martial artist instructor swung his third-order original force weapon and attacked the 2 who were blocking him. The rest of the pursuers focused on restraining the Psyker Master instructor. No one expected to kill him, only to hold him long enough for their team to escape. Li Qi used the distraction to press his luck and fled down the passage. His genetic primal energy had been completely burned out, though, so he couldn't employ his energy-burning escape technique and could not go at full speed. He scanned behind him with mind power and, finding no pursuers, let out a quiet sigh of relief. "I should be safe now," he told himself. Then the inner wall ahead exploded. Metal and meteoric debris sprayed everywhere and slammed against the far side of the corridor. Through the dust, a figure darted out. It was the ape-man Psyker Master. Li Qi's expression shifted at the sight of that hairy face. "It's him." The ape-man's voice crackled with hatred as he transmitted, "Finally, I've caught you." His mind seethed. What had been supposed to be a difficult but manageable mission had turned into a bloodbath. He had run into 3 universe-rank opponents almost immediately, 2 of them with domains, and his companions, who had stayed to hold the enemies back, were almost certainly dead now. They were his brothers in arms, comrades since their days as slaves. Now they were gone. When Li Qi scanned the large breach the ape-man had made, there was no one else, only the ape-man himself. "Just you alone?" Li Qi asked. "Because of you," the ape-man snapped. "I'm the only one left." He launched his third-order mind energy weapon and flooded Li Qi's sea of consciousness with a surging wave of mind power. The mental assault came even before the weapon reached him. Faced with a universe-rank 4th-order mind power strike, Li Qi only swayed. His own mind power intensity and an iron will honed through long practice steadied him. The ape man stared, stunned. I'm universe rank 4th order, he thought. He's only astral rank 8th order. The gap in mind power intensity is dozens, maybe hundreds of times. How can he be barely affected? Li Qi planted his bloodblade cone, tough and compact, and used it to deflect the mind energy weapon. He spoke coldly. The words transmitted like an edict through the link. 6 universe rank pursuers. I couldn't stand against them, so I fled. 5 universe rank, still no match for me, so I fled. He let the thought hang, then added, but you, only a single universe rank 4th order Psyker Master. Who gave you the confidence to think you could take me on? Since you're the only one left, let me send you to meet your companions. Chapter 96, Explosion and Killing. Killing intent poured off Li Qi as he fully unleashed his domain. Green light rippled outward from him. At the same time, with his mind power, he guided the Blood Edge Blade to meet the opponent's mind energy weapon. The Blood Edge Blade was a 2nd order telekinesis weapon, forged by the Stellar Cultivation Camp from consistently solid materials. Its amplitude patterns couldn't rival a true 3rd order mind energy weapon, but because it was made of solid substance and had been infused with a trace of wood origin law, it hit with a force that surprised everyone. Bang, bang, bang. The clash left the ape-man Psyker Master on the back foot. His 3rd order mind energy weapon was being suppressed by the Blood Edge Blade. How is this possible? His weapon is only 2nd order. How can it suppress my 3rd order weapon? The ape-man Psyker Master demanded, his face a mixture of shock and disbelief. First, his mind power had failed to affect the opponent's will. Now his supposedly superior weapon was being pushed down. Nothing about this made sense to him. Die! Li Qi roared, driving the Blood Edge Blade to repel the ape-man's weapon and then strike. Pfft. Despite wearing 3rd order force armor, the ape-man was cut across the chest by the blade, solid, sharp, and enhanced by that faint wood origin law. He staggered back, bleeding. The ape-man's expression twisted. Facing such a strange and powerful enemy made him feel helpless. He pictured his brothers, those who had held off universe-rank cultivators to complete their mission, their fates unknown, and fury boiled up. You forced my hand, he howled. I'll kill you. He pulled a blood-colored pill from his spatial ring and swallowed it in one motion. He no longer cared about completing any mission. The only thing that mattered was winning. When they'd been briefed, the enemy had been described as a stellar-ranked genius at the 8th stage with a domain. But this man's strength, now displaying like this, couldn't be a mere genius. He seemed like a monster on par with a universe rank. Pain exploded through the ape-man's body as the pill took hold, but with the pain came an endless surge of genetic primal energy and mind power. His features contorted in agony, his cheeks hollowed, his cheekbones protruding, his body visibly shrank. Go to hell, he screamed, throwing every reserve into a secret technique that devoured mind power to amplify the secret patterns on his 3rd order mind energy weapon and suppress the Blood Edge Blade. At the same time, he drew a 2nd order force battle blade and a battle shield and burned genetic primal energy to boost his speed and strength, charging straight at Li Qi. Li Qi had seen him reach for the pill and had tried to stop him, but he'd been a step too slow. The change after the pill was terrifying. The Blood Edge Blade, which had been pressuring him, was now being suppressed by the ape-man's weapon. The pill had given a massive, raw burst of power at the cost of the body, and the speed the ape-man now displayed under the restraint of Li Qi's domain was devastating. Li Qi had to bring out his heavy defense shield to block. The ape-man smashed his battle shield into the heavy defense shield and closed the distance, slashing Li Qi across the chest. Clang! The impact from the 2nd order force battle blade sent Li Qi flying. Burning the genetic primal energy he'd just regained, Li Qi activated the energy-burning escape technique, using the blow's momentum to create distance. He inwardly thanked the crimson light box he kept hidden. Without it, that strike might have been fatal. Right, my crimson light box. It contains a fragment of a 5th order mind energy weapon. He pulled crimson light box number 1 from his chest and activated its patterns with one hand, preparing to open it. The ape-man, body racked with pain from the pill, eyes and mouth streaming with tears and saliva, raised his blade and charged again. We'll see who dies, he bellowed. Li Qi spoke aloud as he focused his mind power on the crimson light box. When it opened, a faint, profound, terrifying aura poured out and spread in all directions. The ape-man, already near madness, froze when that lingering aura brushed against him. An ordinary universe-rank 4th-stage Psyker Master had never experienced the residual presence of an undying spiritual god. Even faint, it was majestic and oppressive beyond his comprehension. Is this what a god is? He thought, his divine sense sharpened to a single image of a tall, sacred figure. Now, Li Qi acted. He had spent a long time tempering his will and was already accustomed to the lingering aura of the undying spiritual god inside the fragment. Seeing the ape-man stunned, Li Qi pushed his mind power into the 5th-order mind energy weapon fragment and thrust it at the ape-man's head. In the ape-man's mind, the godlike figure raised a hand and struck. He had no strength left to resist, only a terrified, choking cry. No! Pft! The fragment was exquisitely sharp. Even through the ape-man's 3rd-order force armor, it pierced his skull in a single, clean strike. He died instantaneously. With their master gone, the 3rd-order mind energy weapon that had gone motionless under the fragment's awe shattered into hundreds of blades and clattered to the ground. Li Qi exhaled a long, trembling breath as the ape-man's body thudded to the earth. Phew, he's finally dead. I nearly capsized. He replayed the fight in his mind. He'd been suppressing the ape-man until that pill changed everything. If the ape-man hadn't been able to end the fight quickly, his body would have collapsed from the pill's strain. What kind of pill could grant so much power at such a cost? Lost in thought, Li Qi bent to look at the corpse. The puzzle of the 6 universe-rank cultivators hung in his mind. Who were they, really? The more he considered it, the more unsettled he became. Then, mid-reflection, he suddenly looked up. His face changed, shock and alarm flaring across it. Chapter 97, Treatment of Genius. Li Qi's face went pale. His mind power swept out and tracked the rapidly approaching figure. Its speed outstripped any universe rank he'd ever encountered. They're here. With a thunderous crash, the tunnel wall exploded inward. A massive man in black force armor strode through the dust and smoke. He towered over 4 meters, his skin the color of molten iron, and 2 tusks jutted from the corners of his mouth. Li Qi thought instantly of the Lava Emperor. The newcomer's features were uncannily similar. He looks like the Lava Emperor's kind, he thought. The stranger's gaze landed on Li Qi, and he smiled casually. Ah, Li Qi Royce. He knew Li Qi and greeted him without hostility. For a moment, Li Qi braced for a fight, then relaxed. If this newcomer had been hostile, his strength, likely territory lord level, would have been far beyond what the astral rank instructors could handle. My name is Ender Frolov, the man said, Deputy Director of the Lava Empire's Intelligence Department. Ender crouched and inspected the ape-man Psyker Master's corpse, then muttered in surprise, body-burning blood poison. He looked up. Did you kill him? Li Qi bowed slightly. Yes, Lord Ender. Ender's expression hardened with disbelief. A universe-rank 4th-stage Psyker Master, armed with a 3rd-order mind energy weapon and 3rd-order force armor, who also took body-burning blood poison. How did you defeat him? An astral rank 8th stage killing a 4th stage universe rank, especially one boosted by that poison, seemed impossible by ordinary measures. Li Qi produced a shard of mind energy weapon, fiery red, but with a thin thread of green bleeding into it. With this, he said, a 5th-order mind energy weapon fragment, it still carries the aura of an undying spiritual god. He added, almost as an afterthought, and I added a trace of wood origin law to it. Ender's face changed from disbelief to awe as he recognized the undying spiritual god's aura. Then his eyes narrowed at the law fluctuations dancing across the fragment. You've comprehended law? Ender himself was a 4th-stage territory lord with mastery over 8 levels of domain. He could vaguely sense universe origin law fluctuations, but he had not comprehended law. That a young astral rank 8th stage had grasped even a trace of origin law stunned him. I was fortunate, Li Qi said humbly. I comprehended a sliver of origin law recently. Ender made a half-smile, tinged with envy. Fortunate indeed. He gestured for Li Qi to tell him everything, and Li Qi quickly recounted the battle with the ape-man. When Li Qi asked about the blood-colored pill, Ender explained, that's called body-burning blood poison. It was originally an alchemical torment, but because it forces out vast amounts of genetic primal energy and mind power, some families used it on suicide attackers as a last resort. It gives a terrifying but temporary boost. Li Qi's eyes widened. So those 6 were suicide attackers. That explains why they didn't try to flee. Not suicide attackers, Ender corrected, then stooped and pried a small chip from the shivered skull of the ape-man. They're slaves. He held the shard up so Li Qi could see. Cultivating suicide attackers costs too much, so families only do it for their best assets. Slaves are cheaper. Slaves are fitted with control chips. If a slave breaks through to Territory Lord, they can sometimes wrest free of the chip and their masters. Suicide attackers, however, are bred and trained for absolute loyalty. If one is unleashed, they stay loyal even if they advance to Territory Lord or World Lord levels. Their obedience approaches that of a soul servant. Li Qi absorbed the difference. Suicide attackers were expensive and loyal. Slaves were expendable and controlled. Ender nodded. I'll notify the Stellar Cultivation Camp and the Cultivation Planet Department about your comprehension of law. He studied the fiery fragment again, recalling its aura. Where did you get this 5th Order fragment? A Territory Lord instructor at the Stellar Cultivation Camp gave it to me, Li Qi answered. Ender's mouth quirked. Territory Lord Nanying? Li Qi nodded. Ender chuckled softly. That would be his style. He made a decent call this time. He changed tone. But that fragment won't help you much beyond tempering your will. Ender had detected Li Qi's wood origin law. The fragment's fire origin patterns made it more useful to a fire-aligned cultivator. For someone who had already touched origin law, it was little more than a trinket. Still, its residual undying spiritual god aura had practical use. Li Qi glanced at the shard hovering in the air. Thanks to that lingering aura tempering my will, I managed to withstand the ape-man's mind power attack. Ender considered that, then murmured, Do you know why they raided here? They seemed to be after me, Li Qi admitted. It couldn't be hidden. The other students had witnessed the attack. Ender fell into thought. If they targeted you, then whoever sent them must have known of Li Qi Royce's talent and tried to capture you. He frowned. What's odd is how they learned of such talent. That part doesn't add up. He didn't press Li Qi for details. Li Qi's status had already changed now that he'd comprehended law. If they were aiming for you, the Empire will have to respond, Ender said solemnly. I'll report this to His Majesty. He will see justice served. Li Qi blinked at the promise. Special treatment for someone who had comprehended law made sense, and he felt a surge of relief. Thank you, Lord Ender. Don't mention it. Ender gave a short smile. I need to check on the other intruders. He nodded toward the blasted passage. Keep going down this tunnel. Imperial forces will escort you and ensure your safety. Understood. Li Qi inclined his head and continued along the passage, the Imperial troops flanking him as he flew on. After Li Qi left, Ender hurried toward the remaining universe-rank enemies. He had originally wanted to capture them alive, but after meeting someone as unusual as Li Qi, he couldn't help chatting. It would have been fine not to talk, but once they did, the results were astonishing. This kid, marked as the top priority target by the Cultivation Planet Department, had already comprehended a trace of law, outpacing Ander, a Territory Lord, on the path of laws. While flying, Ander notified the Stellar Cultivation Camp and the Cultivation Planet Department about Li Qi's law comprehension. He even reported the full situation to His Majesty, the Lava Emperor. Normally, as a deputy director of the Intelligence Department, Ander had no right to report across ranks, but his family ties to the Lava Emperor gave him special leeway. That relationship was the real reason he held his position in intelligence. By the time Ander arrived, the battle had already become 3 against 4. 3 cosmic-level instructors pitted against 4 enemies who had taken burning body blood poison. Even with domains, the instructors were being suppressed by the drug-amped universe-rank opponents. Ander's arrival immediately turned the tide. A Territory Lord facing universe-rank foes without domains was like taking down children with a single blow. Knowing the 4 were slaves, he had no intention of keeping them alive. Slaves with control chips would simply have their heads blown up by a remote command from the mastermind. He executed them cleanly. After the fight, Ander frowned. It looks like this operation ends here. All 6 attackers were dead. The enemy would certainly learn the outcome and would not risk returning. Near the Lava Empire border, aboard a ship waiting for word, Ennio stared into his wineglass with a dark expression. He had sent all 6 of his universe-rank slaves, convinced they could capture an astral rank with a domain, but they had failed. Worse, communication with the Star Pirate's lair went dead once those 6 went in. He'd received nothing. He'd only known someone had died because he forced each slave to send a sliver of consciousness into the virtual universe. Otherwise, he would have been blind. "Return to base," he ordered. There would be no second chance after this failure. The ship set course for the ancient Thunder Empire. At the Lava Emperor Star, the Lava World Master sat in his great hall, eyes bright as he watched the light screen. "Li-Chi Royce has comprehended a trace of the Wood Origin Law," the report read. He remembered Li-Chi's dossier and could not hide his surprise. To comprehend a law only 5 years after entering the Empire's cultivation system was unprecedented, fastest growth since he founded the Lava Empire and began cultivating geniuses. He had been right to take Li-Chi in. There were only 77 years until the next Cosmic Peak Genius battle. Li-Chi wouldn't make the universe top 1,000 this session, but after another 5,000 years of cultivation, he might well place in the next. The Lava World Master clenched his fist and pinned his hopes on Li-Chi. If the youth could reach the top 1,000, it could change his fate, and breaking through to an undying spiritual god would no longer be a distant dream. A dangerous light crossed his eyes. He hadn't acted in nearly 1,000,000 years, and he would not be bullied now. He sent a message and entered the virtual universe. On Chanwu continent, inside the palace on Molten Rock Island, the Lava World Master sat upon his throne. A green-haired man drifted in, and the Lava World Master rose to greet him. "Hoka," he said, "I need your help this time." "Gulete, you're too formal." Hoka smiled softly. "Given our friendship, a brief message would have been enough for small matters." "This isn't small." Gulete invited Hoka to sit and then explained. "Soon I'll send people to other mid-tier universe nations to exterminate certain territory lord or world lord ranked families. I need you to hold the line." "That hasn't been decided?" Hoka asked, puzzled. "What happened?" "You know my situation." Gulete's voice turned cold. "I've poured everything into cultivating geniuses, and now someone is trying to steal the genius I raised." Hoka nodded in understanding. He knew his friend's plight. Gulete's law comprehension far outstripped his own. Fire origin was fully comprehended. Earth origin had already attracted the law's recognition and neared completion. He had even touched space law. His body's amplification had reached 100-fold. Logically, he should have broken through to an undying spiritual god, but his core refused to advance, leaving him stuck at World Lord rank. That was why he devoted himself to cultivating geniuses. Each one was a chance to finally break through. Someone brazenly laying hands on one of those geniuses was a mortal insult. "For this operation, I'll send 2 personal guard teams led by Siwait and Duya," Gulete continued. "Their strength is enough for territory lords and newly promoted world lords, but against veteran world lords, they'll struggle. That's why I'm asking you to help hold the line." Hoka laughed. "That's an easy favor. For exterminating territory lord families or newly promoted world lords, I don't even need to move." Siwete and Duya commanded the personal guards. One a Stage 3 world lord, the other Stage 1, sufficient against newly promoted world lords. Their 2 teams included 6 territory lords and 60 universe rank fighters with domains, more than capable of handling threats below world lord rank. Gulete added, "There's one more thing. The genius who comprehended the Wood Origin Law, could you tutor him for a while? It won't be long, just over 5,000 years." "That's the genius you want protected?" Hoka rose, smiling. "Agreed. In the future, for matters like this, just send me a message. You don't need to make a special trip into the virtual universe." Gulete shook his head with a rueful expression. Hoka was perfect in many ways. He was powerful and reliable, but he was also reclusive and preferred solitude. Still, in a crisis like this, he was the friend Gulete needed. Chapter 99, Aftermath. Is this the Lava Empire's army? Under Domain Lord Anders' watch, Li-Chi flew down the corridor. Ahead, he soon saw a squad of over 30 soldiers, crimson battlesuits, a universe rank officer hovering above them with a saber and shield. The rank and file were astral, and instead of Psyker Master's usual force weapons, each held a crimson laser gun. For this special mission, they'd been equipped with the Lava Empire's standard B91 laser rifle, a 1-second charge time and enough punch to threaten even universe-rank powerhouses. A single weapon with that charge would be suicide against a prepared astral rank, but in the hundreds, they could turn any battlefield into a minefield. One misstep, and even a universe rank could die. When the soldiers spotted Li Qi, the universe rank officer barked, "Guard formation!" 30 astral soldiers surged forward, forming a living ring around Li Qi and placing him in the center. Guns were raised, muzzles pointed outward. Surrounded, Li Qi peered through 3 layers of vigilant soldiers and thought, if they have to get to me, they'll have to cut through most of them first. They're literally putting their lives between me and danger. "Return to the warship," the officer ordered. Under that protection, Li Qi was escorted back to the warship in full view. Their dramatic entrance startled 2 students who had just recovered from their wounds and were coming down the passage. They nearly collided with the formation. Seeing Li Qi in black force armor, ringed by soldiers who kept their weapons outward, the 2 students whispered in awe. "This is over the top," one said. "Are they protecting him or arresting him?" The outward-facing muzzles made it clear. This was protection. Even once aboard the ship, the soldiers held their positions. The 2 students wondered if the crew didn't trust their own vessel until the universe rank officer called, "Mission complete, fall in." At the order, the astral rank soldiers lowered their laser rifles and reformed. The officer floated over. "Your Excellency Li Qi, we have delivered you safely to the warship. You are secure here, but to avoid any accidents, I recommend you change cabins." "Is that necessary?" Li Qi asked. The officer seemed overly cautious, but Li Qi agreed. "All right, I'll trouble you." "Dismissed," the officer said, then led Li Qi to a special cabin near the military officer's quarters. The cabin's walls were described as E-grade metal, absolute safety. Li Qi rested there while other students completed their trial missions and trickled back to the ship. Word spread quickly. A student had been escorted by the Lava Empire's army and was kept in a special cabin. When the 2 eyewitnesses described the protective formation, the students of the San Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp broke into speculation. That escorted student was the planetary-level domain genius Li Qi, one reported. "Heh, our team was attacked by 6 universe ranks, and they came specifically for Li Qi." The rest of the students were stunned. 6 universe ranks risked entering a star pirate's lair to kill a planetary-level domain genius? That's insane. They didn't doubt the risk was worth it for certain targets. They just thought it was madness to provoke the Lava Empire. Although not vast, the Empire was densely packed with powerhouses. Offending it was rarely a good idea. Maybe Li Qi is the heir of a major family, someone guessed. A rival sent universe-rank assassins to remove him from succession. "Don't be ridiculous," another snapped. "If he were an heir, his family would safeguard him for cultivation, not throw him into a stellar cultivation camp." Exactly. A major family wouldn't let a planetary-level domain genius enter a camp with nearly a 50% death rate. While gossip swirled aboard the warship, the 3 universe-rank instructors received a message from the stellar cultivation camp. They were to escort Li Qi safely back to the Sand Sea camp and await pickup by the Lava Secret Realm's ship. One instructor cried out in surprise, "Li Qi Royce is going into the Lava Secret Realm already? He's only been in the Stellar Cultivation Camp a little over 3 years." Although not from the Sand Sea camp, the instructor could still check Li Qi's record. Another instructor agreed. Even for a planetary-level genius, his domain progress is ridiculously fast. The Sand Sea instructor laughed. "You're judging him only by domain progress? If not that, then by connections?" another asked. "Law," the Sand Sea instructor said quietly. "I suspect he's comprehended a law." "Impossible," the others protested. "How long has he even been in the camp? How could he have comprehended a law in so short a time?" They didn't want to believe it. Their own domain attainments were only 2 or 3 layers at most. A planetary genius surpassing them in domain development in just over 3 years was plausible. But someone that young grasping a law, that was harder to accept. Meanwhile, back at the Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp, in an impressive building, Domain Lord Betkos read the message on his light screen and frowned in surprise. Lychee Royce has comprehended the Wood Origin Law. A Domain Lord close to World Lord rank, Betkos had expected to recruit promising talents before leaving. That a planetary-level genius had advanced to law comprehension in so little time was unexpected. He smiled to himself. Enviable talent. I planned to recruit a planetary-level genius before I left, but if he's already comprehended a law, that's an even greater gain. With that, Domain Lord Betkos prepared to depart. The opportunity to cultivate a genius who had already grasped a law was a rare and welcome bonus. Chapter 100, Return in Time. In another building of the Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp, Domain Lord Nan Ying stared at the light screen in front of him, disbelief written across his face. Lychee Royce has comprehended the Wood Origin Law? As a Territory Lord rank instructor who had guided Royce, he knew Royce's domain-level attainment intimately. How could Royce have grasped the Wood Origin Law with only a 4-layer domain level? If it had been the Fire Origin Law, Nan Ying could have understood. Royce had been studying the secret patterns on a 5th-order mind-energy weapon fragment, but the Wood Origin Law made no sense at that level. Nan Ying was baffled. Still, he was thrilled. Royce having comprehended a law meant Nan Ying's heavy investment might finally pay off, perhaps even yield immense returns. He silently hoped Royce would continue to rise, that he might win the Cosmic Peak Genius Battle and be recruited into the Virtual Universe Corporation or the Great Axe Battleground as a core member. A month later, the spaceship that had carried out the trial mission returned to the Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp. This time, it was escorted by a warship, which only withdrew after the vessel had landed. When the hatch opened and the people inside saw the scene outside, they were stunned. This is over the top. 8 Territory Lord rank instructors stood lined up, with Domain Lord Betkos, the camp's head, at the forefront. He stood a step ahead of the others. To the side towered Domain Lord Nan Ying, his enormous frame easily exceeding 20 meters, impossible to miss. Lychee Royce, Domain Lord Betkos's voice carried across the landing field. The students on the ship looked back to see Royce standing near the rear, his figure flanked by a cosmic-level instructor. At Betkos's call, the students parted and cleared a wide path. Escorted by the cosmic-level instructor, Royce passed through, catching the complex looks aimed at him: jealousy, envy, admiration, resentment. He felt them but kept his composure. When he landed, Royce saluted respectfully to the camp's commander. Domain Lord Betkos. He turned and bowed twice to the assembled instructors. Greetings, esteemed Territory Lord instructors. Domain Lord Nan Ying watched Royce with a proud smile that never left his huge face. The other instructors noticed Nan Ying's unusual elation and understood why. He had a well-known habit of investing in prodigies, hoping for returns, and this time his protege had produced something extraordinary: comprehension of a law while still in the Stellar Cultivation Camp. That was unheard of. Normally, once a student's domain level reached the 5th or 6th layer, they were transferred into the Lava Secret Realm as a reserve member. Anyone who had comprehended a law would already have spent many years there. Betkos chuckled. Lychee Royce, the 8 of us are here because you are the first genius student in the Sea camp to comprehend a law without having gone into the Lava Secret Realm. Domain Lord Betkos, you flatter me, Royce replied humbly. It was merely a stroke of luck to comprehend a law. I do not deserve such a grand welcome. Betkos waved his hand with a smile. You are too modest. He then added, you are not suitable to return to the dormitory. Come with us. Royce understood at once. The stairs on the ship had made that clear. He followed the 8 Territory Lords and left with them. Once the instructors and Royce had gone, the students who remained on the ship broke into an uproar. Did you hear that? Betkos said Royce comprehended a law. A law! Royce actually comprehended a law. I never thought I'd see an astral rank law genius in real life. This is insane. How long has he been in the camp, and he already comprehended a law? Shock silenced envy and malice. Students could be jealous of domain-level geniuses, whose techniques often reached perfection and major achievement, but the law realm felt light years away. The Sea camp, established for 2 or 3 million years, had never produced an astral rank law genius before. That was why 8 territory lord rank instructors had come out to welcome him. Following the instructors, Royce was led to a familiar part of the camp, the living area for territory lord rank instructors. They stopped before a detached central residence. Royce looked around. The instructors' homes were indeed arranged around this building. This is the temporary residence for students of the Sand Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp before they enter the Lava Secret Realm, Betkos explained. Rest here. Your personal belongings have already been brought by the intelligent robot. The spaceship that will take you into the Lava Secret Realm hasn't arrived yet. You can use your communicator to speak with family or friends for now. Those chances will be rare later. Royce frowned. Why will they be rare? Are communicators forbidden in the Lava Secret Realm? They're not forbidden, but you can only use them within the virtual universe, Betkos said. Cultivation and law comprehension demand enormous stretches of time. You can be completely immersed and feel a short span has passed, while in truth, years, decades, sometimes more, have gone by. For those at high levels, a single cultivation session can last thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Royce absorbed this. I understand. Thank you, Domain Lord Betkos. You may leave now. If you need anything, find us. With that, Betkos and the other 7 instructors departed. Left alone in the central house, Royce looked up at the blazing sun and felt suddenly small. He understood that with his talent, becoming a world lord in the future was not impossible, but the thought of the time required made his chest tighten. A single cultivation session for a powerful being could span thousands or tens of thousands of years. He could ascend, become greater than anyone in the camp, but what of his family? For the first time, Royce felt the pressing, unbearable weight of time.